Okay, so let's see. Right at the 120 section, we are good. Hey, welcome back to another of my Marshall beginner game analysis videos. This is, I think, my third video now, maybe fourth. I have a couple of games that I wanted to go over today. They're on the lower end of skill, but I am pretty excited that each one has some sharp lessons in the realm of beginners tournament stuff. So I figured maybe it'll help you out with your climb to USCF 1200 as well. So in today's series, I've got three games. I played 25 fives at the Marshall Chess Club, esteemed New York City club located by Washington Square Park. Sunday mornings, I get to hang out there, have a nice bagel and some coffee, and then have to fight kids for 3 hours every morning. So in this tournament, I played my first game as white against a 673 rated player. So I decided to play a little, strong-handed if I could, just to try to get some stuff going. So we go into a pretty similar line to things that I've been playing a lot of. So I've got the Scotch game here, and I'm going for the Gambit variation again. I think that at a lower level, and especially when I'm playing people who don't know who I am, this is kind of a signature first, opening for me. And if you've seen any of my other videos, I've already posted a few times on this. I just like the idea of getting a lot of development, and if your opponents don't know the exact right moves right away, you can kind of get away with a lot of stuff. So in this position, just like I say, my opponent plays h6, defending this key square here for the knight, but by doing so allows me to capture back my pawn. And once we trade, as you can see, my queen can't be kicked off the square because there's no more knight. And I've just got a simple lead in development around the center of the board, and I feel like that's pretty good. So, now the pretty common response, you're going to see d6 or d5 in a lot of these positions. The light square bishop needs to come out quickly. The big issue here is going to be that king side pieces have not been developed yet. The queen's staring right down the board. We've got a bishop looking down. Everything's starting to kind of look like it's pressuring this side. So it makes sense to want to try to maybe get out and castle queen side just to have yourself a little safety there. But obviously even then you're still having some threats down the board. So my opponent decides to castle. And we get this, I decide to castle. my bad. And my opponent plays knight f6. Now, knight f6 is fine. I think in this position, the better move for me, which would have given me a clear advantage right away, was just to push this pawn. Instead, I decide to protect the pawn with my knight, which is just overprotecting in the first place. And kind of in the spirit of these lines, I feel like I'm supposed to be sacking this pawn if I can, just for development. Not sacking necessarily, but pushing to e5 is kind of the thing that you really want most often. If you can push that, you're feeling really happy. So we get this just to show this line. If I would have gone down this variation, we get c5, queen d3, d takes e5, and then this variation here, where say for instance, obviously my opponent won't, but say for instance they take, I just get the free queen. So that's very nice for me. And then if they lose castling rights, then I just protect my bishop with my queen here, and then I'm just starting to look pretty nice. So things aren't too bad for me. But I'm still learning. I'm at a sub 1200, so it's gonna take a little while to get there. So yeah, and anyway, I end up in this other position here, and then my opponent plays this. I want to castle. I get it. I just want to try and trade bishop for knight here. I'm like, well, if you're gonna give me the advantage in this position, even if it's minute, I'll take a pair of bishops in a long form game. I feel like it starts to really give you some clear direction where you need to go. So we get this here, and in these lines, I'm learning now, I'm supposed to be, I think I'm supposed to take sometimes. Um, but I take here, and actually I'm wondering in this line, we get castles. I wonder in this line, let's see, just for posterity's sake, let's see. Okay, it says that it wants you to do it with the pawn. Yes, the pawn takes is kind of like a thematic thing too that I've been noticing a lot more of. Taking with the bishop is fine, but you just get more interesting positions that way. I also thought about, what if I do this? No, that's bad. Oh yeah, that's bad because of the pin in the back. Okay, we don't like this. We don't like this one bit. I'm glad I checked. The other idea too was instead of bringing my knight out, we could have gone down this line, which is just for them to castles, and then there's all sorts of potential ideas. Gives me a small advantage, but well, anyway, we're getting into the semantics of this position, but that's at the end of the day, that's chess. So I start to storm my pawns down the board for some sort of an attack. My opponent saying, okay, I guess we're going to clear the way. And then I get this pawn move. And then this is where it felt really weak. This is where one of those things where you start to feel really comfortable in the position. I started to be like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to, I'll probably, find a nice, advantageous way from here. And so I just start developing pieces. And then this is, I love this one a lot. This is conceptually really nice. Is the bishop coming in, and then when you push the e5, at the end of this line, you get takes and takes. Well, after I take and take, I'm still holding the center, and I'm still holding my pawn. So that felt really cool. I actually really enjoyed this idea. And then my opponent bounces, runs away to the side. And I thought for a long time here, and not to spoil you with the engine lines, but the move is indeed f takes or rook takes f7. Thematically, really fun idea. If you let's just say, for instance, you take the bishop here, now pins, and when I come back in, you're in a world of trouble. I'm gonna probably throw down a pawn. Well, I can't throw down a pawn because that would lose the pin. But after I, find a way to take and then come back in and get all sorts of nasty onto the board, and there's all these ideas of the pin being on here, and then so when I do take, I can take, and then when I say, for instance, come back out here, that's a sort of a windmill tactic. So this is actually a brilliant move. I was very impressed with myself. I felt like I'd found something cool, So my opponent goes with this. Secondary approach. Let's see. My opponent goes with the secondary approach here with this bishop to a5, which is not so bad. But after I take here, the pin has been resolved, or I'm still hitting you with the windmill, so you have to run. And then after a series of takes, I just gain another pawn. And from here, the position is, let's just look at the computer again really quick. It is dead lost at points, at seven points. You've basically, there's not much to do. I've just got a pawn running down the board, and you're gonna have to kind of sacrifice a lot to get out. I've got a total of 3 to your 1 pawns. So my opponent tries to, start the attack, but I push on. We get this move here. I push up to protect my pawns. At this point, just maintaining the advantage of having 3 extra pawns, 3 to 1 here, and having this completely passed pawn. I am in very good shape. It's going to be a world of pain for my opponent in the next few moves, but unfortunately it is going to be a few moves because we start to get into a little bit of a middle game bind here. These are all just kind of improving moves, trying to get the tactics straight, and my opponent plays this very tricky move. If takes, then takes with check, and then I would come back and say, for instance, you go here. Or anything you do is not actually that bad for me. I wonder what happens if I take. yeah, we're still in a pretty crazy idea because yeah, after takes, and say for instance you want to attack, you're still gonna lose. You're still gonna lose a bunch of pieces. Actually, that's pretty. That's quite interesting. I like that. Um, that it still has lot of sharpness to it. But I was like, I'm not having this. So I just came out with King F2 just to say, now I'm gonna take your bishop and then you can't check me. So it won't be as profitable for you. So we get the soft backup by my opponent. If I remember correctly, I think we're still pretty good on time in this game. But I decided to just start playing some very calm, calculated moves. With my opponent backing up, I don't want them to come back around for any reason and have any threats, so I brought my bishop up. And from this point on, I'm just going to try and storm this pawn down the board. We get king up here, and after a slow couple of moves, my opponent trying to find some attack, but that's the issue. That's the reason why the computer's saying it's so winning, is that doesn't really have an attack to be done. I'm protecting my piece. I say, okay, that's fine. You attack, but I'm not even you're not even really attacking anything because the knight or the rook protects. So, as you see, I just every move for the next few moves was storming my pawn down the board. A4, A5, rook to E2, A6, A7. Just every move other than getting my rook to safety was a pawn push. And then from here, I was aware of the bishop move, but then I just told myself, well, you're going to have two protected passers here. Some bad stuff's going to happen. So in this idea, the king's coming out. Probably, idea takes here, and then takes all the after all the pieces take, and then try and say okay, well, the bishops and stuff. But I've got too many pawns, I think, at that point. But I decide to kick the bishop. Bishop comes back, and then I just push. So now my pawns are protected. I'm feeling strong. I go, okay, I'm okay. And then my opponent then is still kind of under this assumption of this attack here. So I bring king up. Ah! I think I just accidentally gave away some stuff. Don't look at it. That's the most important thing. In this line, my opponent is ready to try and take back that this piece here, but realizes that you can't because of the bishop. And now this bishop can't get anywhere, so we're starting to get into a lot of trouble. So we get this pawn push, and then I come up. And then from here, there is a forced checkmating sequence that I didn't see that is quite beautiful. It starts with rook e6, and then king goes to h7. You come up. You're basically threatening to come into here. The blocking occurs. You take, because there's literally nothing to do. When all of these are said and done, there's going to be a series of trades coming all around, and there is nothing to do but let yourself get mated here. These are the best moves in that line. Now, of course, that's a little over my head. I'm not I'm not so strong that I see in this position all these weird sack line stuff. So instead, I decided to play bishop to d3 check. You can no longer come in, and basically I'm going to try and win this pawn at some point. So I do as much. My opponent decides to play this, very passive move that doesn't even do anything because obviously I'm blocking here. And as you can see now, the pretty obvious bishop g6, kicking the rook off. Rook decides to run, and I promote here. Now, in this, I could also play a check here. Very interesting conversation point is that this is now check with this move. And what's the... Oh, no, sorry. This is the checkmate. Yeah, nowhere to go. Checkmating from this position. And I just decided to go the old-fashioned route, win a little bit of material. From here, I think from here, my opponent resigns. But the final idea here is a series of odd sacks down the board and then a final checkmate here. Would have definitely not cleaned it up as smoothly as this one, but it was nice to see. But yeah, so that was game one. So I was feeling strong going into game two. My opponent in game two was maybe one of my highest rated players that I've played. Was Charles Hugh, 1171. And yes, it is confirmed Charles is the highest. I was also top seed in this series of games, so that was quite interesting. We're going to try and go through this one a little faster. I think it happened quite quick, if I remember correctly. I decided to go into a Sicilian. We go with the standard D6 approach. Now, I go into a little bit of a detail into this line here. The idea that I'm supposed to do is I play knight c6, but bishop e7 is better. Bishop e7 is better, and it's just a. It would have given me a little bit of a more of an advantage. But I think after bishop e7, we go into some sort of line that looks like this, and I mean it's sort of the same as a lot of structures that I'm used to playing. But either way, I do go for this knight c6. It's as they say, it's a slight inaccuracy. It's a little bit dubious, but my opponent immediately goes into equality with this move here. So now I'm just trying to win a pawn, and I realize that if I bring the bishop out, I will win a pawn. My opponent protects against losing it, and then now I'm fighting the sneaky long battle. I'm loving these new ideas that I've been finding in getting my queen all the way across the board for an attack. I had a game today that was like iconic in that sense. My opponent notices and comes back, and then we just get a simple castle. So now I've got to decide. I've got all this I've got all my pieces out. I've got this cool queen move. I wonder what I'm gonna work my way into. So I decided to block myself in immediately. Not 100% sure if I'm in love with the idea, but it's not bad by any means. So we get the knight attack, and then I come back to c7, which is where the queen wants to be anyway. And then my opponent plays just a huge blunder, just knight f3, and then I do gain the pawn, and at this point I'm up not just the material, but now I'm just up positionally, and I have this huge center. There's no way that I'm gonna let myself lose it. I'm just gonna try and push really hard for victory at this point. Once I got the pawn, I felt very very safe. The pressure is now on my opponent to try and figure something out. Down material, which is obviously never that fun. So my opponent tries to trade. I decide to back up. I was like, no. I'm gonna keep the fight going, and yeah, I maintain a 2 advantage pretty much this whole way through. The big issue is okay. So this is the big issue is I start to get a little above my pay grade, if you will. My opponent plays knight g5. And in this position, you're supposed to very casually back up and back out to keep the advantage. You don't want to lose. You don't want to lose this piece here. It's very valuable. And there's also going to be a series of tactics that I have to be frustratingly aware of, which will show its ugly head soon. And so I decide to attack the bishop here, and we're gonna get into some. This is the first time that I really get into some very unfortunate news, because as you can see, the attack here is that the knight and the bishop combo are gonna hit this, and it's only protected by 1 pawn. So either I'm getting forked, not quite royally, but pretty royal. Or at the end of the line, after takes, the queen gets chopped, and it's going to be kind of rough. My opponent does the wrong version, which I think makes total sense. This is the one that seems to gain the most, especially because taking here and then going and then taking doesn't feel right. But here, oh wait, no, let's go to their response. Their response here, yeah. So their response here, this is the better idea because after takes, you take with a pawn, I take, and then you come with this new pressure still. And there's just this like really unfortunate structure, and now everything's starting to come down. I personally would not have played in this fashion. So who knows? Who knows what would have happened here? This is a little bit more of a restored balance, but my opponent plays with the bishop move in mind. Makes total sense. You're looking at getting an opportunity to 4-3 my pieces. I think the issue is because it wasn't a direct attack right away, I get the option to attack this bishop. So after takes, my opponent takes the wrong way. I let the 4 happen at this point, and I decide to give away some material. But now I am immediately attacking down the side of the board. You have to protect or jump out of the way. And I've got a soft. I retained my like soft lead. I'm still up the pawn, and I'm not up the pawn anymore. No, now I'm down a pawn. But being down a pawn and also being up a decent amount of material. So we went back to equality here. This one was really frustrating for me because I realized very quickly I had done something incorrect. But my opponent, like I say, moves into this interesting concept here. So I just decide I'm going to start attacking everything that I can. I'm going to, hope that my opponent plays something silly like takes, and then I would check with the bishop attack, stuff like that. My opponent's not having any of it, says let's get the queens off the board. But I think, in my opinion, that 4 pieces versus 3 pieces, even if you have 2 rooks and they're connected, I feel like I have a pretty heavy advantage here, and the computer agrees. So we get this move. My opponent has to shuffle all the way back because there's nothing really to do with that. You just give me some free development. And then I kick again, and I feel really dumb after I kick because when I kicked, I realized I had given my opponent this disgusting square. Now, that being said, it's still minus 2.7, but I had to get rid of it. I was like, no, there's no way I'm letting this beautiful outpost knight hang out. If I can get the material down a little bit, I'll clean up a pawn at some point. So we get the takes back, and I just reroute my bishop to a slightly safer square. Now I'm already down to a pretty substantial lead here at almost minus 3, and we're materially still even. And it's mainly because a rook and a pawn for like 2 minors is almost like never that good. Now, like once we get towards the end game, it gets a little bit better, but I feel like I started to put a little bit of pressure on my opponent. We're on board 1. It's a hard day. We get into this. We start to get into this end game where I start to bring my king up. We decide that we're both doing it, and my opponent plays a pretty poorly calculated move, getting the rooks on the line. I'm not 100% sure how to take advantage of it. There's something like this. Where it says it wants you to like play more towards this side of the board, and then like just keep advancing in the way that you're supposed to, I suppose. But whatever. We're not pros. We're having fun with it. I just decide to get my knight out a little bit more active. I'm not even 100% sure what I really wanted at this point. I think I just wanted to give my opponent more time to like kind of make some mistakes. The big one obviously is that I want to get my bishop here and attack the rook through the pin. My opponent recognizes that. I decide to go for it anyway because after this move, it is a check. This unfortunately, I played the wrong move, and my opponent said, "Oh, you're in check," because I think what I had done is I had done this or something. And my opponent said, like, I don't even think I did that. I don't even know what I was doing. But my opponent goes, you're in check, and I was like, okay, forgot. So I played like a fool for a split second there. But I back out a little. My opponent decides to attack the knight, and I protect the knight. Now, in this position, my opponent makes the game-losing mistake, which is quite unfortunate. Goes to f6 with the rook. It makes sense. You want to attack this pawn. You want to try to figure something out, but it's unfortunate because it is taken by the knight. And from here, it's just a clean a clean victory. I've got two pieces, so I can do whatever I want here. I just start pushing down the board, and I say that's fine. You want to trade pieces? I'll do that for the pawn, and now I have 6 points, and my opponent resigns in this position. I believe either. Yeah, I think it was just a solid resign. I think here because I think my opponent was running out of time as well. So just quite frustrating for them. I totally understand. But that was my second win, and I go on to my third game, facing yet again a very stellar chess player. She's sub 800, but I can tell, and this game is really the highlight of what I wanted to share today. This girl I played on this day, and then the following week we talked to each other about our game again because we were both so excited to figure out how this theory works at a beginner's level with the Italian. And the Italian came up because of touch move. I touched my bishop before I moved my pawn. I was going to play in the same theme. I was going to push my pawn and do all the same stuff normally, but it's touch move, so I accidentally moved my bishop first, and I was like, well, I've never played the Italian. I've never played the Spanish in any tournament game. Well, I suppose no better time to start than the third game that you have to win to walk home with any money. That's always nice to do, right? So my opponent we go into a very standard approach here. This is nothing here feels out of the blue. I had a very minute advantage, but nothing special. And then I decide to pin. Then it gets a little bit interesting because my opponent blocks the bishop in, which is totally fine. But now we're having to deal with the idea that this queen is going to be pinned against that knight for the remainder of this game. And I've actually reviewed this game so many times that I'm starting to memorize where the central themes are going to end up as the game progresses. It's actually, this one quite genuinely is maybe one of my favorite games that I've ever got to play over the board so far. But we're starting soft. We're going to develop some pieces. The funny thing, too, to say about this position, this game, not quite the exact, but I watched a couple of friends at Bushwick Chess over the board. I watched them play an Italian, and it sort of had a similar theme to this one. And when I saw that you were allowed to do it, and I saw two players who I know are good playing it, I went, well, that is an interesting way to play, and I bet conceptually quite frustrating to the beginner. So I decided to play this line just like this because I was feeling pretty confident about the way that this panned out. Now, you see my opponent goes for the secondary pin, but as opposed to my opponent, who is pinned here and has nothing to protect this piece, I brought my knight out specifically to protect, so my queen was able to run away after we back out, and then I go into queen. Now, the engine says at this point that I should go ahead and play g4, and sure, that's totally fine, but I dare anyone to tell me that you would prefer to play this in a tournament game. This just doesn't feel very safe to me. This whole line keeps itself pretty even, and I don't want to have to mess with all of this nonsense. Say for instance, in this line, you push and your opponent, I don't know, takes everything, and you go 2 pawns for that, and then now your pieces are open, your queen's gonna find a way in. I don't know, oh yeah, you can't actually do that because the piece is a pawn. That's why we're learning. All right, anyway, my pawn plays b5, and everybody knows that when you play b5 in any line, the computer hates you. So I get the automatic pin. Now I'm pinning 2 major pieces to a knight, or 2 knights to major pieces, if you prefer. And I'm feeling quite comfortable here. My opponent jumps in, and I immediately snap up my advantage here. We are now, without being up material, we are now 1.5 in the lead. And I felt this comfortable in the game. I was when I did this, I knew I knew that there was a lot of stuff that was going to go on, but I knew started to feel really comfortable. The knight gets to f5 in so many lines. You're starting to feel pretty comfortable. Now that being said, I play a light inaccuracy. I play b4. Apparently, my black's bishop is kind of always wants to be on b6 anyway, so it's really not that much of a gain for me, and I'm sort of losing out some attacking pressure on the other side of the board, which is whatever. I mean, this is just a learning game. You know, we're not too scared. But I go for the knight h4 because I really want the knight on f5. Ben Feingold would be thrilled if I do say so myself. And in this position, my opponent kind of realizes right away that there's some threats coming in. Say for instance I get here, and then I check you, and then there's like some stuff over here where I start to take more pieces. That doesn't actually work. Well, that does work. It's rook and pawn for the two minors. We don't love that though. Actually, that's not even the case because this bishop's here. Anyway, I feel like I'm ranting. We get to king h2. I play this mainly just to like unpin myself, and because I saw somebody else play this once, and so it made some sense. I wanted to make some room for my rook and get down the board at some point, but then there's also this issue where this pawn is going to need to be protected, so I really need to figure out ways to do everything at the same time. I'm also realizing in this game that I have a pretty bad habit of playing like this. I have a bad habit of having a lot to do and not enough hands to do it. I wish I had 3. So we go into this line with rook g8, and I don't know about you, but I just felt really comfortable. I decide to kind of push on the side of the board just to clear up some tension over here. My opponent then plays, this rook f6 move, or rook a f8, and at this point, it kind of feels like, she's bringing all of the pieces that she can to the side of the board that looks like it's going to need some defense. And also getting the rook away so that the knight can then jump out and have some fun. So we get takes, and I think in this position, my opponent maybe would have been better off coming over here first. But after the 2 takes here, I should go ahead and attack here. Mainly because if not, then the knight's going to, like I said, come in. My bishop's not looking so great anymore, and things are just starting to kind of fade away. And talking about fading away, I lose my advantage completely with this innocuous knight move, knight d to f3, and then from here, you just jump the knight out and then to here, and then I've got a stupid bishop, and things don't look that great for me. So I should have figured this trade was valuable sooner than later, but I don't know. I just I felt like I could keep the cards on the table a little bit longer. Then we get this weird bad move that sucks, and it was rook g7. It was in this position that I just at this point knew I was totally comfortable. I jumped my knight in to attack the rook, and in this position, I mean, it's not the best move after, say, for instance, takes and takes. But you can't really do that. You don't have time because of the knight move. So we get a even more strenuous moment for my opponent after the rook comes in, and I said, I don't mind. My king can be as naked as humanly possible. If I'm up material in a position like this, I have to be winning. I just have to be. And I was right. I go to a 3.2 advantage. My opponent takes, which wasn't. There was a couple of different ways to play this, but this line definitely feels really good for me. And then after this, the knight does need to jump out, but the knight does not. We get this move here, and now I've just decided I'm gonna come in with the rooks. And I was worried about this move, and it says that the computer really likes this move because it just starts to threaten all sorts of stuff. Say, for instance, you get a couple of sack exchanges, and then there's an actual real attack on the rook, and so things aren't looking super great. I also kind of think that this was funny now that I think about it. You can't do it because things are protecting and your pieces are hanging, but I do realize that this pawn is looking a little silly. But we get this, this very much a forfeiting feeling move to come all the way back. And here, the game-winning tactic is right around the corner. We're gonna get takes back, and then I take with the bishop. You cannot take back with the queen, because if you do, you are hit with a fork, a nasty little knight fork. There's nothing to do here. There's not like a check that like gets you back into it or anything. So you're unfortunately just gonna go and exchange down. So after I have the exchange down, and I feel like from here, due to the fact that I have the material advantage, I'm up the rook at the cost of a couple pawns. So definitely at this point feels like I'm going to win. So I just start striking hard. I say there's nothing to do. I want a knight on f5 again. We're going to get there. We decide to attack this square here, jumping in and then checkmating here. So you have to stop that with queen f8. In this position, I am just going to slowly rework my position out. A couple of pawn moves, and from here, this is where the game's going to end. The knight comes in. I'm going to check here, take, and then no matter what you do, the next move is knight f7 checkmate. So my opponent, as we all do, pushes some pawns. I take back instead of just saying like, okay, that's fine, let's do the threat. And then I play this very frustrating rook move. Your queen can't come in with a check. You can no longer take anything over here. And in this position, my opponent just very patiently sat and waited out the clock, but say for instance this position would have, like I said, been the exact same thing. You just get mated on the side of the board due to the rook, and that is the reason why the rook is so dang good. And with that, I won my third game, and for the first time ever, I got a win at Marshall Chess Club at their beginners tournament. So that was my first of two. I think that was like 3 weeks ago at this point. So I'm very excited. I'm gonna actually like throw out the next analysis video like pretty much right after this one. But I hope you enjoyed. I've got a few fun games in the future for you, and some more new chess news. So thank you so much, and much love.